For the first time ever, YouTube has changed their algorithm and didn't tell anyone. So if you've been thinking of starting a YouTube channel, there's never been a better time than to do it right now. In 2024, Google integrated their AI system Gemini into YouTube. And at first, it was just running in the background. It started learning from videos and audience patterns. But after a year of fine-tuning and training, it seems like now Gemini decides what the YouTube algorithm is going to recommend and rank. Now, this is not replacing the original algorithm. It's just working with it. So I guess you can say that there's two algorithms now, which sounds scary, but it shouldn't be, especially if you're a small creator, because now you can compete with bigger YouTube channels, right? If you understand how Gemini works and you understand exactly what it wants from you, you're just gonna be competing for ranking. But anyways, after a few months of testing, I'm gonna show you exactly what I gathered and what I've discovered. First off, it's now about viewer experience as opposed to just entertainment. Gemini's job is not to judge if a video is high quality or if it has cool transitions. It doesn't care about that. It's focused on the individual's viewing pattern. You know, whatever that specific person has watched before and what it's most likely going to watch next. And it can do that because, again, Gemini has been in the background gathering absolutely everything that you and I have searched for and watched. It knows when we evolve, it knows when we stop caring about a certain topic, and it's already rolling out. That's why they didn't announce it, right? They're just testing it first before making it a huge deal. At least I think so. You know, I've been doing YouTube since 2018. I've made over $1.8 million. I've gotten more than 300 million views, and I've seen how the algorithm changes. And this time, it was very obvious. You know, I'm not the most entertaining, I'm not the best speaker, but I do know when the algorithm changes. And this time around, it was very, very obvious. So I think that where we're headed now is a profile age on YouTube. I mean, that's why there's been so many updates, especially the age verification. It's essentially just individualizing people and making profiles on us, which makes sense. You know, China does it. You know, some people don't like that, but from a creator's perspective, how much more straightforward can this possibly be? This makes everything way more predictable. Instead of guessing what might go viral, all we have to do is just tailor our videos to what Gemini wants. And I think I figured it out. So the first thing is visuals. Now this is common knowledge, but there is a specific, very important tweak to it. So if you don't know, Gemini analyzes every single frame in your YouTube videos. The faces, the objects, the text on your screen, literally everything. And the reason it does that is because it's checking how relevant the visuals are to what the topic is. And what I found is that using images that already rank relatively high on Google gives your video an extra layer of credibility that makes Gemini push it more. For example, I'm going to open up a incognito tab and search up my name, Romayroh. And if I start scrolling enough, we're going to find something very interesting. Here. Now this video was not about me, it was not about YouTube, but just because this little tiny square has my face on it, it appears under images when you search my name. But it gets crazier. Here's another one. This is just someone recording their iPad, and again, completely irrelevant to what the topic of their video is. My thumbnail is here on the right, so it appears in the search term for my name. Here's another one. This person is promoting their YouTube channel about working out. My thumbnail's at the bottom, so I recommended it. Last one, this person posted a tweet promoting his music video. Again, my thumbnail was there, and so it appears under my images. But if you notice that all of the images I just showed you was the same one. It was all the same video, this one right here, this thumbnail. And that's because it's my most popular video. Now keep in mind, Google has never really done this, at least not to this extent, because now there's facial recognition. But here's why I'm saying this. Let me show you an actual faceless YouTube channel of mine. So this is one of my YouTube channels that is in the rock niche, and this is where I talk about rock and roll artists, their lives, whatever, right? In August, Ozzy Osbourne passed away. So I posted some videos on that, and I ran multiple tests here. So I made 4 videos on this. The first video I posted has 136,000 views. The second one has 2,269. The third one has 42,000. And the fourth one has 2,702. Now, how is it possible to have a drastic difference of views if it's the same topic? Well, according to my test here, which is very obvious, it's the images I used on the thumbnail. For example, this was the thumbnail of the most popular video. Now on the left side, it is an image of Sharon Osbourne at Ozzy Osbourne's funeral. Now if we search up on Google Sharon Osbourne, Ozzy Osbourne funeral, and we go to images, we can see that the 6th image that appears in Google's own image ranking is the image I used on the left. And for those of you that are curious, 136,000 views paid me $864. Keep in mind, I spent about $20 to make this video. So it's safe to say that adding a high-ranking image from Google will add a layer of trust to your video that Gemini will then take and push. Now, whether this is just a coincidence is up for debate, obviously. But moving on to the second one, which is audio. Yes, Gemini analyzes the audio of your video. So your voiceover and your script is no longer just part of the production, but it's something that Gemini takes into account. Because what Gemini does is that it transcribes the audio of your video and it looks for dates, specific locations, specific names, and it looks for these things so it can connect your video to the relevant topic, right? This is just another layer of confirmation that your video is high authority and fact-checked. That means that if you sprinkle in a few fact checks in your video, that might help a lot more than you think. And it even analyzes background music. If it's ominous, if it's mysterious, if it's happy, if it's sad, Gemini will recognize this. And depending on what emotion your background music is trying to get from the viewer, that is going to be heavily considered. For example, let's say I put sad background music on a video about Elvis Presley, right? And I just talk about his life. Because of the music I use, Gemini is going to say, okay, this is a sad video about Elvis, so I'm going to recommend it when someone searches something sad about Elvis. For example, Elvis passing away, Elvis and his alcohol problem. So it won't be pushed as hard into happy topics. For example, people that search Elvis best career achievements. So in other words, emotion matters. Whatever soundtrack you have and whatever emotion you're trying to get from the viewer, Gemini is going to recognize that and it's going to recommend it accordingly. Which leads me to my next point. Gemini now reads comment sections. If the majority of your comments are positive, it's most likely going to get a pretty noticeable push. But if the majority of your comments are negative, there's a huge possibility that it will be suppressed. That's why as of now, call to actions should be more than just like and subscribe. From now on, start asking your viewers questions. And going back to the Elvis example, I would ask my viewers, what's your favorite Elvis song? Randomly throughout the video, very quickly. Have you ever been to an Elvis concert? When's the first time you listened to Elvis? What's his worst song? And when viewers answer with names or dates or locations, Gemini will read that as extra context for your video, giving it more authority. That's why I would really appreciate it if you left a positive comment. Doesn't matter what it is, man, I'll take anything. We don't see that a lot around here. And of course, like and subscribe. For those of you that are serious about starting a YouTube channel or want to know more about this potential new algorithm update, I'm going to be going live in my school community this Sunday and Wednesday. And that's where I'm going to be giving you every single detail and every single strategy that I've implemented to start seeing results. But for those of you that don't know, in my school community, I have helped thousands of beginners start their own YouTube channels. With some recent results like Suja here that in his first month monetized, he made $3,000. We also have members like Fernando that made $5,500 in just 2 weeks. There's also members like Ayush that made $6,111 in just 1 month. And of course, members like Hamid that in the first 4 weeks of starting his YouTube channel, he made $7,079. And in total, since January 1st of 2025, members of my community have made over $200,000 in just ad revenue. And that's because I give out all of my secrets.